Hello, Phantomaniacs! Welcome to the newest unboxing and the last new classified unboxing of this week here on the Needless Things YouTube channel. Today we are looking at Darklon, Destro's weird cousin, member of the Iron Grenadiers. It was featured in the Destro miniseries of Energon Universe comics. Highly recommend you check out the Energon Universe if you have not yet. It is a great update to the franchise that we all love. So here is Darklon, not one I necessarily expected to see this early in the line, but an interesting character, one that I bought his original figure before I knew this one was coming out, just because he's such a weird looking figure. And also I wanted his evader, which I thought was kind of cool. And I am a little disappointed that looks like we're not going to get a classified evader, because those smaller vehicles are my sweet spot. I have much less interest, unless we're talking a whale, which I will pay whatever I got to pay for. I have much less interest in larger classified vehicles like the Rattler. The smaller stuff, let's go. I've got room for that. It's much more manageable. I'm not saying they shouldn't make the larger vehicles, because obviously there is a market for them, but just for me personally, I'm less interested in that. All right, Darklon from Darklonia. No tape. No tape in this tray, and I appreciate the heck out of that. So not a character, this character came out after my time with Joe. I was really out in 87, but definitely out after 88. And Darklon was just one that I had no awareness of whatsoever until a few years ago. Well, I guess that's probably not true, because I'm guessing there are a lot of characters that were in, like, the Devil's Due comics that I was reading at the time, as they were coming out, that maybe I just never went and looked and was like, oh yeah, these are part of the line. I don't know. It'd be interesting to revisit Devil's Due and see just how many of the post-87 characters were in there that I didn't even realize were figures, because I just never paid any attention to that stuff back then. Real snug knee joint there. That top joint is tight, but it moves. This is just nutty. These shells on his boot, which, by the way, thankfully, this is a separate piece, but it is glued on to the side or welded or whatever it is. It is attached, so this isn't just going to slide around like an old Cyclops boot belt thing. Same with this. This is interesting. Both of these pieces are, I guess it's plastic welding that they do, maybe. Both of these pieces are that way. This, rather than having a loop, is attached. I would love to see more of this. I've mentioned it time and time again. I don't like these pieces sliding around all over my figures. I also love that, like Blowtorch, Darklon's belt is part of his crotch overlay, and with a functional holster. I mean, this is really cool. To me, this is an important step in classified, is doing things like this, that if you're going to make a belt, we'll make a crotch overlay, because it's still one piece of tooling. And with this, and I obviously it probably adds another step to the manufacturing, but my gosh, the fact that this is fixed in place and not sliding all over the figure is great. Same for this. So obviously Darklon is hideous. Like, this color combination is just the worst, but I love it because of that. And I mean, he is very structurally similar to that original figure. They've done a very nice job, again, of, well, this is less updating and more just upscaling. And as I often say, there's no such thing as a classified figure that's just a larger version of the original figure, because that's silly. There's more detail, more articulation, just different proportions. But side by side, they really did stick to the true spirit of Darklon. This is one where I would say there's very little room for a retro card back release. So his helmet looks great. Look at those eyes. Very interesting that they went with sort of a reptilian look to those eyes. I always like this design that this is like a Jason style mask, and he's got a balaclava on underneath that. Always look cool to me. I'm good with the fact that they made this a separate color, because in the original figure, this is all green. I like that they added this detailing here. Very unique look. Not as unique as the alternate Ed, but we'll look at that in a minute. He's got that shoulder armor piece that is a separate piece that slides around, but I tend to like to jam that up above the bicep joint so it'll stay in place. But that does kind of limit, like his arm can't go all the way down then. But with his big giant cannon, I don't know that that's going to be a factor anyway. Everything feels plastic, all feels good. Joints all match their surrounding area. It looks like heavy duty might have been a bit of an aberration at that with that, in that his elbows didn't really match the rest of his arms. Because none of these three that I've reviewed this week have had that issue. He's great. He looks awesome. I mean, he looks hideous, but he looks awesome. Accessory-wise, we have got this big, giant sword that is just all Lenny. You know it is. Got a jewel being clutched in like a claw pommel here. Another jewel right here that, do I remember Lenny or somebody on the team saying that this is supposed to be similar to Destro's jewel, the necklace? I feel like I remember somebody saying that. But anyway, this sword is awesome. It's a pretty rigid plastic. It's not rubbery at all, and I love that, because if this was rubbery, it'd be so disappointing. He's got a big old scabbard, also strangely rigid. You would expect, of all things, this would be just soft rubber, but it's not. Very flexible. I know there's a term for this piece, because this would be a separate piece from the scabbard itself. I'm not sure what that's called, though. Tell me in the comments if you know. But what great detailing on this thing. And I like this really just flat black they used. It almost has sort of a leathery look. So that slides home very nicely. We're going to put that right on his back because it's awesome. And it's an addition, obviously not on the original figure, but just looks cool. Somebody from a country called Darklonia needs a big giant sword like that. I guess we'll put his hand blaster away too. No port for blast effects, just a revolver. Just a little snub-nosed revolver. Pretty neat. I like it as the sort of thing a despot would have just tucked into the back of his belt. Slides home perfectly in that holster. I'm telling you, this Blowtorch and Darklon both had this belt sculpted onto the crotch overlay, and it is a huge, huge improvement in my opinion. I hope they continue to do that wherever they can. I've got a knife that looks very much like the Iron Grenadier's knife, or dagger, whatever. Looks great, and also pretty rigid. Not rubbery at all. Slide that home in that boot sheath. Fits perfectly. Looks great. The alternate portrait, I have said on Audible Interlude, I'm not a fan, and I'm not a fan. That's really, it's very well done. It's wild. It's interesting, and I don't begrudge them including it, because my gosh, the people bringing us these lines deserve to have their fun. But this is just not my cup of tea. Although it does look vaguely Quintessonian. So yeah, I mean, it's very, very well done. And I'll just leave it at that. And then finally, Darklon's comedically gigantic cannon is great. And if you notice, it's great. I've got to dig into my bowl of blast effects again, because I want to demonstrate what they've done here. If I can find enough small blast effects in here to make it happen. I really do need to separate these into the big giant pieces and the little tiny pieces. What do we got? Let's see. I promise this will maybe be worth it, because I appreciate what they did here. Oh, okay, I like that. We'll do... I don't think that'll work. What I really need is 4 smaller ones, I think, like that. Obviously, that one's no good. And I just don't have enough of those, shockingly, to do what I want here. All right, I've wasted more than enough time on this. Okay, so let's just do this. We'll do the poofy one in the middle, because that fits. But then, crazily enough, well, okay, maybe I'm not right. I thought these, yeah. I don't know that these are the right blast effects to be putting in here, because they don't totally go in. Yeah, they're not going to go in all the way. You would need some different blast effects for this to look right. But there are 4 ports surrounding the main cannon. Maybe smoke effects would be better there. I don't know. Whatever the case, you've got lots of weird options for blast effects in the front of this cannon. So that wasn't quite as great a display as I thought it would be, but you get the idea. Interesting thing to have done design-wise. So let's see how well he holds this big Mamma cannon. That is a softer rubber. It is softer plastic. It is definitely a little more flexible than I would care for it to be. But there we go. Holds it just fine. Let me move that elbow pad. There we go. Or shoulder pad, rather. I don't know that that's ever going to look totally... So he's got another... There's another trigger guard, or another trigger. That's interesting. So let's try to make that happen. Wrists are... Oh, his wrists are up and down. So we can do that. And then pull that finger out a little bit and slide it right through there. Seems a little awkward to not have anything to grip for that forward trigger, but okay, whatever. Still an interesting look, and very much like that original just beefier. Hang on. Oh, there we go. So good adaptation in Classified. So there he is, Darklon, a very unique looking character, adapted incredibly well into Classified. And I've got to find, right now my Iron Grenadiers do not have a home on my shelves. They're on the floor waiting for me to clear a spot. And I don't know where that spot's going to be. I got to figure it out. But there is Darklon. Stay tuned. Whenever Footloose gets here, I'll be doing a review. You can check out Blowtorch and the Frag Viper from the past couple of days. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, share, tell your friends about Needless Things. And until next time, buy what you like.
Smash that like button if you like Needless Things.